Hello friends, and welcome back to my enchanted library, where today I am so excited to show you my Wintertide grimoire. I've been working on this pretty actively since January, and I wanted to finish it before spring came, and the dandelions and daffodils and buttercups are blooming. So I think I have to call this finished. So this was so much fun. It's a journey into the underworld and the self told through visual language. I wanted to challenge myself like that because I was kind of sick of my grimoires being just full of like longhand writing throughout all of them. So grab a nice warm cuppa and we will get right into showing you the insides. So this is made out of a children's board book that I bought years ago for a moon grimoire that I did one page in and promptly abandoned. I did the covers, I covered them with a canvas that was prepped for watercolor. I've done a rice technique for lifting and creating a frosty effect. Big thanks to Molly Roberts' Grimoire Winter Labyrinth for that inspiration and some other inspirations throughout. But this was also heavily inspired by Hosier's Unreal Unearth album, and that sort of like dive into Dante's Inferno, and the Boy and the Heron, the new Studio Ghibli film. Just gorgeous journey into this whimsical land of underworld and a journey into discovering himself. I've got some thrifted ribbon here, some ribbon on the spine, as well as a binder clip part that I used to glue in to attach all these charms. I have bells. I have this beautiful ornament that my cat sitter made for me. A icicle made out of a milk carton. And then I have on the cover here some die cut snowflakes out of this holographic paper. And then I used the offcuts from the die cuts to create stencils so that I could stencil on these snowflakes around the edges. And I just thought it turned out so beautifully. I've got some stars on the cover here, but let's get into it. So like I said, I started this as a moon grimoire. I have no idea how long ago. So there was this page with the moon face and some plants around it. And I didn't want to cover all of it up. I just incorporated it in. So I began this as a reference to the moon card in tarot. So on the moon card you have the crawdad crawling out of the water traditionally, and I like to say we're all crawdads on our way to enlightenment. So throughout this book there are 7 different crawdads and lobsters, and I thought it was a perfect reference to this old vintage Christmas card. I love vintage Christmas cards. I have one tattooed, and it just has 7 lobsters and it says we are 7. So there are 7 lobsters as we go through our journey. So I wanted this to be primary visual storytelling, so I still wanted also all of the normal things I would incorporate into a grimoire. So some journaling, some recipes, journal prompts, that sort of thing, rituals. So I did that by including pockets and making sure all of my text is hidden. So behind my lobster here, I already showed you the postcard. And then each page has a card that tells you what is going on in the story. So I will read this out loud. The moon has asked me to journey in the cold of winter into the depths of my underworld, to burrow in, to discover, uproot. And then on the back I have an oil blend I made to go with the book. And I saw Elderberry Sprout, I believe, made a playlist page in her grimoire for the Wheel of the Year, and I thought how cool it would be to have a playlist for a grimoire. Like the grimoire has its own playlist. So that is what I have written out here and then saved on my music app of choice. I have made some changes since then through listening to it, but when I was working in the grimoire, I was listening to this, and when I revisit it to do journaling or to add to it again, I don't know if it will because it's pretty thick, but I can use the playlist again, so that's pretty neat. And if you want to know what's on the playlist, I will find a way to type it all out in the comments if you ask. Yes. So the moon tells us that we need to journey into ourselves, but first we need to find a way into the underworld, and that is where the winter wood comes in. Now I wanted to go into the construction of this page. I learned this in a watercolor class at my local art center. She taught us to collage on thin papers. We used these like thin handmade washi papers and some like brown packaging paper, and you collage it on, preferably with matte medium, but I used Mod Podge and it worked fine, and you go over the top with gesso, and then the watercolor seeps into the gesso in just these interesting ways, and it created such an ethereal forest. I have a little letter to myself that I'm not going to show you here, but in this forest we meet some spirits, and the spirits all have something to teach us. So in this pocket here are the teachings of the spirits. I have collaged on the back. This is just a junk mail letter, and on the front here we have the forest and the little window, so I can pull out my little spirit teachings. Now the first spirit here that had a teaching for me, and when I kind of figured out what this book was going to do for me through intuitive choice, was this deer I added. When I cut her out and added her to my scene, I didn't notice that she had a fawn with her. So this card is the late fawn, or parenting the inner child. And this spirit here just wants to teach you that you may be older, you may no longer be a child, but your inner child is always with you, and you need to nurture and care for them in order to care for yourself. And this is a postcard that I have painted on top of to turn it from this summer scene into a winter scene. The next teacher on this spread was the bear. This is a cutout from an art magazine that I've added some paint to create this sort of portal effect. I've sewn on some wrapping paper to give it a little more strength. And the bear is teaching us to care for ourselves, our physical selves, because bears frequently emerge during the winter to find a little extra food to help them get through the winter. They don't always stay fully hibernating like many other creatures do. And then here with the nesting pair, I also use some scientific knowledge and metaphysical knowledge to inform the lesson I got from these spirits. And pheasants in the winter will gather in larger groups to ensure their survival. So these pheasants here were telling me to find and engage in community. And lastly, the horrible snowman. This is from a vintage postcard. I love vintage postcards, and these are the children from the same vintage postcard. And the snowman was created through the magic of the imagination of the children. It lives and breathes now, and this is frightening. Being a creative is frightening to many people. So use your magic powers, create and bring ideas, art, and maybe snowmen to life. It's okay to scare some people. And then here is the last spirit and also our story for the spread. It's cut out from some wrapping paper of this tree. This beautiful textured collaged paper is from the Molly Roberts Wintertide Labyrinth. This is my own lino print, a sticker, another one of my prints to create this fairy black lady to guide us. Given our quest by the moon, we travel through the frozen wood. We meet spirits. It is cold. They teach us lessons. Where are we? Are we lost? We continue forward. So as you go deeper into the woods, we are now in a evergreen forest, and I created these snowbanks out of doilies that I've painted, paper doilies. And on the backs of the trees here, I have a tea blend that I created, Winter Wonderland tea blend. I have some journaling prompts for further exploration, so when I feel like I should return to this journal, I have something to think about. Then on this page, I have some more trees, more of the die-cut snowflakes. There's our first, or I guess our second lobster. And this portal, so I'll read to you first. The bare birch forest becomes an evergreen wood. The snow muffles sound, but this place is especially silent. You peer through the branches to find a staircase that leads down, down into the earth. There is an arched portal. You are drawn by lush green, warm, sweet air into the underworld you travel. So here, this isn't super successful. I'm going to work on it in the future, and you will see me do something like this again because this was my very first attempt. I have a swiping spread that disappears. To reveal our portal to the underworld and the staircase down into the underworld. Isn't that so cool? It's supposed to disappear fully. I didn't get it quite right, but it's still cool, and I'm still really happy how it turned out. So now we journey into the underworld officially. And I wanted this page to be strange, so I've glued down some wrapping papers, a brown and a red glittery shiny wrapping paper, and I've actually cut out this portal from a previous artwork of mine, a collage piece that I was just getting energy out on, and I've repurposed some of the pieces here. So we have the roots above with fish flying through, this fish trapped in a bubble from a magazine, some creatures of the underworld, seeds and lobsters. If this will come out. Where what? There's only one way forward. You come through the door dizzy and disoriented. Above you, roots dangle from dark soil. Shimmering fish swim through as if it were a forest of kelp. Strange flora and fauna is all around you, and you aren't sure if you should continue, if this journey is even worth it. Yet you find the path among the foliage and carry forward. And then I have written out my art cartography ritual for finding a way forward. So throughout this book, we meet a deluge of characters that are helpers. So the first character we meet is inside this leafy burrow. These are die-cut leaves out of thin papers. I believe this is tea bag paper from some packaging, washi papers that I've painted on. I've also stenciled on some leaves to look more frozen. Very textural spread, some gifts from friends and snail mail. And here in the dresser is a hidden compartment. You stumble into a leafy burrow. You meet a sweet bee. She is here alone to survive the majority of the winter. She may never see the spring, but her family, her children will. She invites you in for tea. Ancestor worship is common. Miss B is practicing descendant worship. We each must take time to make the world better for the future, even if you will never see the fruits of your efforts. This is inspired by some native bee populations that will create this burrow and leave one bee behind to lay eggs so that they can emerge in the spring. And they should be emerging now. I'm very excited. So I have this paper quilt with a bunch of scrap papers. And on the back there's pocket. Talking about the importance of rest. There's more. No. Comforting oatmeal cookie recipe. And a tea, honey, and gratitude ritual that I adapted from Witch in the Kitchen by Kate Johnson. It's one of my favorite witchcraft books. Yeah, I don't think it's in print anymore, so you might have trouble finding it. And then here I have Miss B. I wanted to make her removable because I loved her so much. The table is on some hinges, and she has her cup of tea. She has a cup of tea for you, and she's welcoming you to take care of yourself so you can take care of the future. Because if she doesn't survive to the winter, to the end of winter, her children will never see the future. So her survival is important at this time too. This next page has no writing. I have created this snow goddess. I wanted her wing to be able to rise up. This is a cutout of an artwork from a book that I've painted, and then I added this paper over top to create the folds of her dress and make her more of a snow goddess. I have some acrylic paint here for auroras and trees. I've painted on the snowbank as well. And then I have these German die cuts for her crown of leaves. This is a doily as part of her halo. And then this is also a German die cut wing. And I just think it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that I didn't want to add anything to it. You just encountered this goddess in the woods. But after encountering the goddess, you meet a screen of leaves that is blocking your view of the fairy queen, created in a similar fashion to our goddess. This is an artwork that I think is a pre-Raphaelite artwork that I've altered here with her little population of musicians and fairies having a soiree in the winter in the woods. Another Victorian illustration. This was actually an ornament I created for my tree this year that I then cut off the ornament bit. From a silent goddess to a queen's boisterous party, winter is so full of highs and lows, of the deepest quiet and the loudest joy and sorrow. Celebrating survival is how humans have made it through the dark months for centuries. Find ways to balance your rest and introspection with celebration, joy, community, and dancing. I always feel like the fun and excitement of the winter holidays end too soon into winter, and you enter the darkest part of the year with nothing. It feels like you're all alone. So these are some winter celebrations and festivities to inspire me in the future, and some party ideas so that I can come back here and organize my own parties. These are a bunch of more die cut leaves that I've colored differently than the ones on the previous page. I have stickers to create the mushrooms and the crocus blossoms, and then these snowflakes are cut portions of a paper doily that I very meticulously cut out parts of to create the snowflakes for the queen's hair and her dress and everywhere else. From the fairy soiree, we meet the cold, blowing air of Boreas, or the god of the north wind. So here I have tissue paper waves collaged on boats, more washi paper and thin paper clouds. And then this is a etching that they have found of Boreas. I forget at what location, archaeology location that I have colored. I've added a larger, more exciting for me conch. And then on this cloud with the snowflake, I have our story. Boreas brings strong cold winds from the north. The storm is unavoidable, hard to work through, and physically painful. Adjust your sails and use the storm to propel you forward. A lot of the harsh things in life are unavoidable, and you just have to carry on. It's kind of the intention of this spread. I used some gel pen, I hope you can see this, to create these beautiful winds coming from his conch shell. And these sailboats, the sails are some of the same paper from Our Lady's dress. I thought that was a nice tie-in. We carry on from the winds of Boreas into a dark wood, and I wanted this to feel like you've escaped the underworld barely unscathed, but things are not quite right, and you're reminded that you are still in the underworld. So I have these creeping hands and eyes in the trees that iridesce at certain angles. The moon is in front of the trees and hanging by a thread. There's a ghost, and here are our footprints passing by another lobster, if you've been keeping count, into this hollow stump. Somehow you are ashore in a dark wood, much like you've passed through before. Have you escaped the underworld? The way this tree's stare makes you queasy. What's the point? Why not hide away from the cold and dark within myself? So instead of tackling it, why don't we hide away? Inside the tree stump, we have ourselves hiding away from the cold. You must face your fears, and you must take them by the hand and love them. Letting fear drive the car or navigate your journey will never take you to where you are meant to be. But you must love fear just as you love yourself. Love, listen, and take control. This is a lovely collage done by a friend. I will link their Instagram as well as the front of the bookmark they did. It's beautiful. So you finally rouse yourself from your slumber enough to hear the horn of a wild hunt progressing through the wood. You peer around a tree to see a deluge of spirits and unicorns and dogs participating in the wild hunt. So here I have this collaged postcard. This was a photocopy from another postcard, some stamping, some purchased ephemera from books. You dust yourself off and carry on walking. As you approach a clearing, you hear a hunting horn, the bray of horses and dogs barking. You've come upon the wild hunt. Led by the green man and the dark goddess, an army of spirits follows behind. They hunt, they laugh, and they do not see you. So here I've taken, these are drawings of etchings from around Europe that were in a unicorn coloring book that I found at an antique sale. So I've photocopied them onto some stiffer paper, and then I've altered them. So I gave this woman a dress and a lovely spear made out of the die-cut snowflakes, and a crown out of the die-cut snowflakes. And then I've turned this man into the green man. He already had a spear, and I've added a crown of leaves. The unicorn In the eye of one of the unicorns, you see yourself staring back. Another soul unchained to join the wild hunt. Your soul is your own, as is your fate. The goddess's eyes smile as you take yourself back. The hunt goes on. So among wild hunt mythology, there was this thought that you could get sucked up, your soul could get sucked up to join the wild hunt if you did not follow the precautions of your respective culture. So I see this as getting sucked into and away from your soul's purpose. And I decided they needed to be hunting something. So here on my pocket, I have this cockatrice sticker. We're nearing the end. And this page is called Meeting the Fire Bearer. So here I have a letter to the future from the past that is sealed, and I will not be able to open it. It's stuck on something. Letter to the future from the past. I have this lovely seal on it, and I will open it at a later date, but it is not even accessible to me. It's very personal. And then here on this bush, this is another cutout of some previous artwork. Our story continues. Feeling more whole, feeling self. You meet the fire bearer. She leans down and bestows a tiny spark of creation. You can tune into the energy of the universe anytime. So here I've cut out an Eve from a magazine and I've painted her pink. I've given her intuition, a paintbrush print, and a little spark of light. And behind here, if I can pull this out, I've attached these with picture corners so that they're easy to remove. We have our fire bearer. I did a study of an Arthur Rackham illustration. I changed the flame. I've added a halo, and I've colored it myself. And this is on like a jelly print paper. This is collaged for the background, some collaged paper, and some plants sprouting up behind her. And here you see the portal out of the underworld as well. So we re-meet our fish. On the back of it, I have light my creative fire with a creative fire sigil I created recently for a class that I'll talk about at the end if you're interested. So you travel out of the underworld and into the sunrise, the first sunrise of the beginning of spring. I didn't want to imply that winter was over at the end of the book. I just wanted to imply that winter was ending. So I have snowdrops popping out of the snow. I have geese flying to signify that the geese are returning and our deer or ourself is now alone. I have the portal you have escaped from and it's kind of disappearing or fading away. And in our pockets here, our final story card. The fire bearer helps you up the stairs and into the overworld. You pass through as dawn is breaking. Snowdrops just opening, geese flying northward to home. You are awake and whole and ready to carry the work you did into your life. Go east, go into the light and carry your spark so that others may see the sun rise again. We have a printout from Molly Roberts. I've created a solar tea blend. And then here I have the final ritual I created for this book, the first Brave Flowers ritual. And that is all that is in my winter grimoire. I hope you enjoyed this tour and this journey through the underworld. If you have any questions, if you want to see any of the rituals, if you want to see my playlist, please do let me know. I will link every inspiration that I can in the bio. And I'm just so happy to share this with everyone. It was a lot of time and energy that I've put into it, and I feel like it's still helping me through some stuff. So, and if this inspires you, please share what you make. I would love to see anything you've made. Okay, this is YouTube, so like and subscribe if you want to see more of my grimoire content, and in the future, other content. And thank you so much for watching. I almost forgot. If you want to join a like-minded group of witches and creatives who are creating so much amazing stuff, we have so many teachers that have wonderful knowledge. And if you would like to learn how to create this sigil here, you would have to join Art for a Spell. It's an online witchcraft community where you will get 2 lessons every month, along with a journal with me, a monthly tarot reading, access to all of the previous lessons, and some bonus content and printables, and access to a wonderful community forum where we can share and discuss art, witchcraft in general. It's been wonderful. It's been so exciting. It is $25 a month, and I will have the link below if you are interested in joining in. Thank you once again so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful late winter and early spring. Bye-bye.